I spent my entire life doing absolutely everything the way I was supposed to. I tried so hard. And then my world crashed when I learned that my marriage needed to end pretty much overnight. And it was one of those pivotal moments where I was like, I have a choice. I could keep performing as I should. I could keep living everyone else's rules, or I could finally, for the first time in my life, say, fuck it. I'm writing my own rules. Excuse my language, but that's pretty much what I said to myself. So fast forward to me in shambles, trying to figure out how to live this new life that I didn't even recognize. And I would have these conversations that were super honest and raw with friends. And I would say things out loud that I've never really said out loud before, and watch their shoulders just drop and relax. Like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to say the thing first. And that's what this show is. It's a room where things get said with women who broke the shoulds and lived to tell the story. And today that woman is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. Sarah is a podcaster, a founder, an author, and one of the most respected voices in her industry. She just released a memoir about finding her voice and the power of being heard. From the outside, she had it all. From the inside, she lost her job she built, she sold the house that she loved, and she had to ask who she was when the title and the address and the certainty were all gone. And what she rebuilt is the reason she's here. Welcome back to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am so excited to be here today with Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, who is an incredible woman with an incredible story to tell. If you've ever lost something that you thought was yours, a job, a marriage, a title, a body, a vision of your life, and you're sitting in the quiet middle space wondering what parts even matter anymore, stay with us, because Sarah's going to walk us through in real time how she rebuilt her voice and her worth and her work from the inside out. And I'm going to encourage her to tell us the parts that most people leave out of the highlight reel. And I have no doubt that she will share. This is going to feel like friends telling you the straight up truth. So let's go. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for sharing your space with me, and congratulations on your podcast. I mean, listen, this is not an easy space to be in. So kudos.
Thank you. I so appreciate that from one podcaster to another. I know you get it. It is so hard and also my favorite thing in the whole world, as most good things are, right?
That is so true. And I always say that life is lived forward and understood backwards. So like at some point you will understand why it was so hard and what made the difference.
Oh my God. I could unpack that for hours. Life. Say that again one more time.
Life is lived forward and understood backwards. Because there's sometimes that you are like living in a moment and you're like, I don't really understand what's going on right now. And you're not necessarily meant to. You're actually meant to more like understand it later on and reflect back on it to see what you learned about yourself, what you learned from the situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I think that is like going to literally be the crux of the show, because I think there's so many moments in reinvention where it feels so dark and like you're walking in a cave and you realize that like it is kind of your trust in the process, your faith, however you want to put it, that gets you to the other side, that to your point, then you can look back. I find that to be true about closed doors where they used to feel like failure. And now I'm like, I just have to say thank you. I don't get it, to your point. Hopefully I will get it soon. But yeah. Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah. Move to the side and walk around it and then see what happens.
Move to the side, walk around it, and see what happens. Hell yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Sarah, you are so my people. I was going to say like, hey, just a heads up, like this show is a not perfect show. I want like the down and dirty truth, not the polished highlight reel, but I see you have such an open heart. I am not worried about that for a second. I am so pumped you're here. Okay. I like to open the show, like no pressure, but if I take everything that you're about to share with us today and just kind of like really let it all sink in, what could actually change in my life?
Well, I would hope that at some point there would be some sort of aha moment, right? I would hope that you look at self-worth differently. I hope that you look at finding your voice differently. And I hope that you look at identity differently. Labels and identity.
I love that. I think that's where we're going to go today, without a doubt. And
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And for women, like turn up the dial. These are the things, especially if you are in 30s, 40s, 50s, yeah, honestly, even in your 20s when you're trying to figure out your identity to start, like these are such important conversations that women have never been taught to really look at or examine. And that's exactly why we are here. Okay. I want to start with some sort of like context before,
Sure.
after type situation. So, as true with everybody on the planet, there's a version of ourselves that people see online, right? Especially on LinkedIn. You have such an incredible professional career. You know, we have the awards and the bylines and the brands and the rooms and the spaces that you get to hold. And then there's the version that's lived through the last couple of years to get you there. And I just want to understand both. So could we
Sure.
dive into sort of the before and the after and really how you
Yeah.
get from one to the other?
I'm not entirely sure, but we're gonna try to figure that out right now.
That's
No, I'm
fair.
just kidding. So I went straight from high school into the family business, and I started off as reception. And because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was like, I don't want to spend all this money on college. Because I really wanted, at one point, I thought I wanted to be a private investigator or
Cool.
follow in my grandfather's footsteps of being a detective
Very
because he was
cool.
a detective at the Scotland Yard. But I can't stand the sight of blood. So I was like, I can't go straight to detective. I have to be a police officer and I'm going to have to deal with blood. And this is not my jam.
Totally.
And so I went straight into the family business and started off as reception, worked my way up. I was out on the streets door knocking for sales at 19
Wow.
for trucking sales.
Ugh,
Um,
I am
and
horrible at sales.
I mean, I couldn't even believe that I was doing it. The amount of doors that got slammed in my face. And then I did some courses by correspondence, and this is going to date me, right? Because this was before online courses. They would mail you the books, and then
Yeah.
you would have a proctor that would do the test with you.
Oh my God, I love this. Honestly, I'm sure we're the same age.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. So I did that while I was moving my way through the business. So like I spent 8 years in operations. And so when you think about logistics, when you think about supply chain,
Mhm.
every component that's in this phone has
Mhm.
been sourced, bought, manufactured, moved, warehoused, and delivered. And so that's supply chain. And so when I
Right.
think about operations, I was moving products by air freight, ocean freight, truck, you name it, was doing all of that. And then I did 8 years in sales, and that started in 2008, which was not a great year to be in sales.
No.
But
Oh my
it
gosh.
was my best year ever.
Oh wow.
And then I ended up being director of sales and marketing, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and we really needed to be able to get our brand story out there. And I thought, well, if Lewis Howes can have a podcast, why can't Sarah Barnes-Humphrey?
I
And
love
I
it.
asked a colleague in my customs department, a male colleague, to be my co-host, and tongue in cheek, my team and I named it Two Babes Talk Supply Chain because I wanted to see how far we could push the industry. Now, this was back in 2016, right?
Mhm.
When podcasts were just sort of emerging. And we got 1,000 downloads overnight one night.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then a year later, so 10 days before my 37th birthday, we closed the doors of the family business and I was out on my butt with nowhere to go, no team, no co-host, but I had people paying to come on the show. So I had to keep
Wow.
it going. So I had to
Oh
learn
my
graphic
God.
design, social media, website design, you name it. Nobody would ever hire me as a designer. Let's just put it out there. I
And
suck.
that was before Canva.
No, I think I was using Canva.
Canva's a lifesaver.
I think I was, yeah, but at the beginning of Canva,
Yeah,
they
right,
didn't
right.
have all the tools that they have today.
Totally. Yeah.
So I will say that my graphics were not very good, but I put it out there anyways. And that is a chapter in my book about progress over perfection.
Hmm.
In that we need to get out of our own way and put stuff out there anyways. Like one of my most listened to episode has the worst audio.
Yeah. Right.
Worst audio.
See?
Yeah.
I
Anyways, I'll
love
pause there just in case there's any questions or where you want to go from
Well,
there.
I mean, first of all, I think it's so honest to be like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started with what's familiar. If I could
Mhm.
summarize, being like, I had the connection into my family business. I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be. So I hopped
Yeah.
into what is familiar, which makes sense.
Mhm.
But I want to think about like what, when we pick about what's familiar, like what are we not thinking about in that path? Like, what are we not opening our doors to just by going down the path that was paved for us? And do you ever think about that in hindsight, since the doors closed? I mean, let's not gloss over the fact that you had this incredible career. You came out of high school and then all of a sudden the doors closed. Like you said, you were out on your butt and all of a sudden you had something to keep going that didn't have the backing and the substance behind it that you had just spent the last 20 years building. So
Yeah.
I think, I want to think about like emotionally, what was that person that was like, I'm just going to go ahead and go down this path. And then you find yourself there 20 years later and the door closed.
So there's a couple of things to unpack there. And one of the
Yeah.
things that I will say is that I never sat still.
Mm,
So I had when the company closed its doors, I had 4 side hustles.
mm,
So I had the podcast and then I had about 3, well, maybe they were 3 side hustles at the time.
mm-hmm,
And I had been cycling through side hustles
mm-hmm.
because I feel like you need to try different things to figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like and what you don't like. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of been my mantra the whole way through. And so I didn't sit still. I didn't just fold into this is the rest of my life. I'm going to work for the family business and hopefully take it over one day.
I
That
love
was the dream because at
mm,
16, that's what I wanted to do.
mm,
But for some reason, I didn't sit still. So I had the side hustles. I also knew that I needed to get over my fear of public speaking. And so I got a talent agent and I went on auditions because I could not go to Toastmasters. Like
yeah.
in the back in the day, you had to call and be like, I want to come to this one.
Yeah.
My hands got so sweaty every time I thought about picking up the phone to call Toastmasters. Like it
Yeah.
was just not happening. So I ended up getting a talent agent and I went on all these auditions and I got yelled out of audition rooms because I can't memorize lines to save my life.
Me
But it
either.
wasn't about being an actor or an actress or getting the job. It was about getting out there and trying it and seeing what I was good at, what I was not good at, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, look at where we are today. It definitely helped me on that path. But I also was on live TV with Denise Richards twice. She had hair care product and I have really, really thick hair. And so I did that. I was in a dog food commercial, like a brand power commercial. And so I
Amazing.
got to do some like really cool things, but acting wasn't the end goal, the end game. And so I just didn't sit still. I didn't just be like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I kept trying different things. And then the day that everything happened, it was because you asked me about, emotionally, how do you transition? You don't. The
Yeah.
day that it happened was the worst day of my life. Because
Yeah.
remember, I had the dream of taking it over since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that carpet is ripped out from under you, and everybody that you had spent the last 20 years with at the company now looks at you very differently and hates you.
Oh, yeah. I
But
get
it
that.
wasn't my fault.
Right. God. And
It
then all
wasn't
of a
my
sudden,
fault.
you're given an identity that you didn't ask for.
Well, and then I have no idea what to do with myself.
Yeah.
So the
God.
only thing that I could focus on was the podcast. And I've said this in other podcast interviews. It was the obligation
Yeah.
that kept me
Right.
going,
Yeah.
right? Because they had paid to come on the show.
Right. Absolutely. I think, obligation is another word that I so often hear with should, or so often feel so connected with shoulds. And so, like, I'm so curious as to a couple of things that I'm hearing that I think are so interesting, especially for women who are finding themselves in situations where they're like, I'm down this path, I'm highly invested, I think this is what I want. But when you say I never sat still, to me, I'm interpreting as like I was just continuously curious
Yes.
about yourself, to be like, I want to know more about myself. I want to test myself in ways, not for the sake of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think so often we get caught in these metrics of like, how successful can I be? How many, auditions can I book? How many gigs can I get? How many guests can I get on my show, et cetera, versus I'm just really curious about myself to see if this is something I
Yeah.
like. Does this light me up? Does this bring me passion? And like, I think, one of the things that I love to research about and one of my favorite things to study is like, before you started testing all these things, what voice in your head, who's the one telling you this is what you should do or this is how you should approach it? Like what conditioning is sitting in your body that you were like, okay, I guess this is what I'm going to do. And yep, I'll do sales. And yes, I'll do operations. And like, yes, this is the dream I want. And then now you're in a completely different space.
I don't know if it was necessarily the dream that I wanted.
Yeah.
It was the
Right.
dream that I had from 16 because like they had been talking about the company at the dinner table since I was 9. And so I just thought like, this is what I should want to do.
That is the moment that I really wanted to get to, right? These are the things that we hear and are conditioned to. And like, no discredit to your family. They're just talking about something that you're so passionate about, that they're so passionate about, the family business. Trust me, I also come from family business family, and the dinner table is always business talk. And so it's like, yeah, no, this is just what I'm supposed to do. And then I'm going to take it over and I'm going to love it because you love it. And then you have these, I love that you have these quiet whispers to be like, I know this is like my dream, air quotes for everyone who's not watching this on video. But I'm going to be curious about these other things as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so important when we are, I think so many women listening to the show right now might be in that moment where they're like, oh, is this really what I wanted to do? And I think the first step is to go back and examine who said this is what I wanted to do. And where did that voice come from? And just to check in and be like, is this true? Was it true at the time and it's no longer true? But I think getting to the root of like, how did I get on this path in the first place? Because I think that's so hard when we're first getting started.
Yeah. Well, you have to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know about you, I feel like now it's a lot easier to question things and question what's going on. Like when I was in my 20s or, late teens coming out of high school, in my 20s and my 30s, I don't know if I really questioned too much. It was sort of like, this is how it is. Cause that's what we had been told.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like, I don't know about you, but like growing up, it was like, it's my house, my rules. You do what I say. There's no questioning. You don't talk back. And a lot of the generation before us feel like us asking questions is like talking back.
Right. Absolutely.
And it gets very defensive very quickly. And so the communication that our generation has had to navigate through, not only internally, but also externally with our families and friends and things like that, has been just a crazy, wild journey. Don't you think?
I absolutely agree. It's like we were just kind of given, this is the path in which you do it. You get a job, you work your hardest, you do your best, you get married, you have children, you do this. And I think also one of the things that goes hand in hand is what are like the quote unquote success metrics for your life?
Right.
Why is it so performance based? It's like, unless your resume, is full of achievement, like you're not worthy. It's like, what?
I know. And where did that come from?
I don't think I realized until I'm 44, until I was probably 42, that you are just born worthy. That's it.
I'm still learning it. And honestly, like if you were to pick up my book, it talks about it being a journey. And that you're going to have to relearn it at different times in your life. 100%. You're never actually done with it. So you say 42. I mean, maybe at 46 or 47, you might need to relearn it because something happens or whatever that looks like. And we always think that it's a setback. We always put a negative connotation to it. And it doesn't have to be negative. What if it's just the journey?
Yeah.
What if it's just being human?
Right? Absolutely. Like you can't know one without the other. You can't know progress without setback. You can't know pain without joy. Oh, I love that so much. What a great way to be like, and again, it's because we all get caught up in these metrics and perfection because that's what we've been told to be like, okay, well, I have a setback. I must be failing, or you're just on the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had plenty of times throughout my journey of questioning that. I mean, I don't have children of my own. I got bonus children. I don't have children of my own, right? I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if that was meant for me or not meant for me, or maybe I'm meant to be an auntie and a stepmom.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, and but there was a time that I questioned it and I was like, why don't you want this? Society tells you that you need to have it. You know, I was told that once I got pregnant, I wouldn't want a career. Like these types of things,
Mhm.
you know, and it's sort of like, why don't I want this? Why don't I want to be a mom? Why don't I want to carry a baby? um, you know, and then there's that. And then there's my autoimmune that I talk about too, where I struggled with that for 15 years. And it's like, why don't my legs look like everybody else's? And what the hell am I going to do? And is this a lot in my life, you know? So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of like conversations that, you know, we're having with ourselves on a regular basis about a variety of different things. And it doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers, but if you stay curious and ask questions throughout the way, you'll get there at some point.
Yes. And I think like when I hear you say, why don't I want the baby? Why don't my legs look like it? It is such a natural response for us to look
Mhm.
inside and be like, what's wrong with me? When it's like, how,
Yes.
until we just realize it's just how we're made. And
Yeah.
like, and I think that a different path is okay. So if I think about the woman sitting on the call today and the woman, was it 3 years ago when the doors closed? Do I have that timeline right?
No, it was 2017.
Okay, time travel. So several years ago, when the doors closed, what would you say to her when you like, that moment when the doors closed and everything implodes, the worst day of your life, and you're now sitting here, however many math years later, what would you say to her?
You have everything that you need to figure it out.
Mm, that's so
Yeah.
good.
And just sort of like trust yourself. Like there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road and you're not going to listen to your intuition as much as you should. And so you're going to make some bad choices, but you are going to come back from that and you are going to go to places and do things that you never ever thought that you could, would, or get the opportunity to do.
That makes me smile ear to ear. I think every woman needs the permission to be like, just trust the ride. And that like, I think so many of us get like, perfection paralysis, especially when we need to go make a life decision and we don't listen to our
Yeah.
intuition and fear just like wildly takes over. But I think for every woman listening to hear you say that, to be like, hey, if I look back however many years ago and could say to myself, you've got everything you need to figure
Mhm.
this out. To me,
Mhm.
that sense, my shoulders drop, a whole flood of relief goes through my system because everyone's got something going on, but we do have the
Yeah.
tools and the ability to figure it out.
Yeah. And we all have a superpower.
Yeah,
But we
we
just
sure
gotta
do.
like, you know, create some room for that and figure that out. And too many times we also give our power away.
Can you
And we
expand
give
on
our
that?
power away to labels and identity. So for the 3 years after the doors closed,
Mhm.
I worked on my business. Actually, I worked on all of my side businesses because I was like, one of them is going to work out. I don't know which
Totally.
one. And so we're just going to spend some time every day. But I also worked two part time jobs.
Mhm.
And so when the doors closed, I was director of sales and marketing.
Mhm.
Then I was receptionist at an indoor tennis club and I was mopping floors at the end of my shift.
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
And I was also scoring men's basketball, which I will tell you, never in your life do you ever want to do that ever
Really?
because they think they're NBA players and
Uh,
they get so mad at you if you don't press the button properly and the score's not right. Anyways,
I can only
that was
imagine.
a whole lesson all on its own. But I also didn't pay myself for 3 years. So I had to work these part-time jobs, you know, and then the pandemic happened. And then I was
Yes.
out of those jobs because they closed
Right.
down and everything happened. You know, my husband lost his job
Mm,
at the same time. So, you know, when I talk about giving your power away,
mm,
I talk about it when it comes to labels and identity. So I went from director of sales and marketing to mopping floors at an indoor tennis club, right? Not all the
mhm.
time. I actually loved the job. I did not love mopping floors. And at first I
Okay.
would mop them without anybody being around. So I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want anybody to see me, you
Totally.
know?
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
job gave me the opportunity to work on my business,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So there's trade-offs. But if we give our power away to the fact that I was mopping floors and I was a director,
Yeah.
what does that do to your mindset, your self-worth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if I did give my power away to that? And I'll tell
Yeah.
you, there was a few instances that I did.
Mhm.
But then also I did not get caught up in it. And I was like, this is what I need to do for now. We're going to get there.
Yeah. God. And I think having that trust in yourself and trust in the process, that's something also that I didn't find until my life kind of completely fell apart,
Mhm.
where all of a sudden I felt like I was sitting in a dark room. And this is actually a great transition to the next section that I would love to talk about. I feel like, we have these moments, we are living these big, bold, beautiful lives, or the lives that we thought we were supposed to live, and we're doing it with full speed ahead. And then
Mhm.
something happens, and all of a sudden you wake up to a life that you no longer recognize. And for me, like, my marriage completely fell apart. I learned overnight that my marriage needed to end. And the next thing I knew, I felt like I had a choice right then and there, where I could very much all of a sudden see how I was living my life before, very much by the book, at work, at home, as a mother, pushing as hard as I possibly could. And it still all blew up. And forgive my language, but I just had this moment where I was like, fuck it. I'm writing
Yeah.
my own rules because I've been living by everyone else's my whole life, and I can't do it anymore. It still didn't work out. So this is the fuck it moment. And what comes almost, these are like two half beats to a whole beat, is now what? So
Mhm.
I would love to know what your moment was where you finally, like, obviously doors closed, your house, everything. You went from director to mopping. What was your moment where you could say, fuck it, now what am I going to do?
I think it was in that moment where I was like, well, actually no. I think also a little bit later on, I think it was during the pandemic
Hmm.
where I had to make a decision because one of my businesses were taking off and the others were not.
Mm.
And a couple of things happened. So I had a technology business that I was trying to raise money for,
Hmm.
and we got an offer, but it was a really, really bad offer. If I had taken it, it would have ruined our chances for investment later on. And at the exact same time, my business partner had a heart attack and bypass surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, if I take this money and my other business is taking off, I can't do both.
Yeah.
And so I ended up selling that business. And then I also closed down the other two that I was working on. And I had a sweat resistant makeup line. I know it was like all over the place.
Do
Um,
you?
and it was a marketplace and it was super cool, but the marketing dollars were just way too much at the time, too. Right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my, I guess, fuck it moment. Right.
Hmm.
Was that I knew that I need all of this needed to go away and
Yeah.
this one needed to stay, and that's the one that I needed to focus on. And actually it was somebody, a friend of mine, that said to me, when I see you in this business, you shine,
Mm.
you have passion, but the other business is bringing you down.
Yeah.
He's like, I think it's time to let it go. And
Mm.
so I tell this story because there's so many moments in life that will show you the path forward, even in the moment where you're like, F it.
Hmm.
There's these moments that will show you the path forward and which way to take it if you listen.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I like have found the most transformational in my life is to make my decision making markers and my barometers for success around how I feel. So
Mm,
versus what is, looks the best on the resume, what I think I should do, et cetera. So
right.
when you say your friend was able to mirror back to you, and you had mentioned before, everyone's got a superpower, and all the women that I talk to, the happiest ones are doing things that are of their natural gifts. And so when I think about that moment where your friend is like, you light up, you
Mhm.
have an energy that I don't recognize when you're doing other things, like that is our path forward. When something lights you up and makes you feel good and brings you good energy and gives you positivity, it's not just, oh my gosh, this is working. So I'm so excited. So I'm like, it's
Right.
also like your authentic self is actually like,
Mhm.
nope, this is it. Like, this is the barometer. This is the path forward. And
Yeah.
I found that once I started living life based on how do I want to feel each day? How do I want to feel doing work? How do I want to feel as a mom? How do I want to feel in my community? That is where I have found my true happiness.
Well, and one thing that I want to say on that, I appreciate you for sharing that. I've got to get better at the whole like, how do I feel in the moment? I definitely need to get better at that. But one thing that I do want to talk a little bit about is the word purpose.
Okay,
Because I
let's do it.
feel like we get so caught up in that word and having to have some kind of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because society is like, you need to have a purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
we're like,
No
oh my
pressure.
goodness, what happens if I don't?
Yeah.
And then, we sort of spiral after that. And I want to tell the story of how I figured out my superpower,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been in supply chain logistics for 25 years. And I thought that was my purpose. And
Yeah.
then I started doing content, creating content in supply chain through podcasts and all sorts of different methods. And I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it.
Yeah.
And I've been on BBC and Bloomberg talking about supply chain. But I
Incredible.
was like, I don't know if I want to be known as a supply chain expert. But
Mm-hmm.
where does that leave me? Because, like, how do you have a supply chain podcast, but not want to be a supply chain expert?
Yeah.
And I went down this path because I was like, I want to have a personal brand. Like, Let's Talk Supply Chain is the brand. Sure, I'm the face. Okay. But the only reason for that is because I was the only one that would work for free in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Now it's about expanding and bringing other people, and that brand should be about different voices within the industry. And so, where does that leave me? Who
Mm,
am I if I'm not the supply chain expert? And it's
totally.
not that I want to let go of supply chain. That is not, I still have a lot of knowledge in it. I still want to be in that industry, right? And so, what does that personal brand look like for me? And so, I went through this whole thing and I went to, do you know who Lewis Howes is? I know I've mentioned him
Yeah,
a couple
I
of times.
do.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I went to his Summit of Greatness, and that was September 2024. And I went to a personal branding sort of session. And the guy was like, your personal brand needs to be about one word. And I sat there and I was like, what the actual, there is no way. Like, there is absolutely no way. But it occupied my mind for a week after, because
Mm,
I was like, if it was about one word, how would we tie it all together?
mm,
Because, like, what is it that I actually do? Create safe space for conversation. So, on my blended podcast, where we talk about inclusion in the workplace, when I click the end record button, a lot of the guests say, thank you, I felt seen and heard today. So I
mm,
help people feel seen and heard, right? Through
mm,
conversation. And then I thought about all of these things, but I was like, I don't know how to tie it into one word. And I got onto a red eye flight and I sat in the chair and I went, I've got it. This is like 11 o'clock at night. I've got it. It's self-worth.
mm.
Because what I do, and it ties everything together. I create safe space for conversation, whether we're talking about supply chain, whether we're talking about inclusion in the workplace. That's the superpower. I
It
help
is.
people feel seen and heard because I give them the platform to
Mm.
help tell their story, just like you do,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And when I took it back to my team, they were like, absolutely not. I was like, what? I have been working on this for a week. It ties everything together. Once I started explaining it, they were like, I get it. And yes, we're going to do it.
Okay. I love it.
Right. But, like, that was at age 44.
Right. And I love for you to be like, when the whole team is like, absolutely or not, you're like, actually, absolutely, yes. Let me expand a little bit more. Let me explain this to you. I think that that is like, what a great example of, okay, I'm trying to figure out, I've done this thing, I'm emerging out of this cocoon of this crazy situation that happened to me. I'm mopping floors, I'm coming out of it, I'm building these things, I'm making decisions, I'm building this brand. But you're like, but there's more here that I haven't uncovered, and that's more connected to me than just what I do, which is an incredible moment. But I love you for sharing that with your team and starting to share that with the world when it's not fully baked yet. I feel
Yeah.
like people who have experienced the hardship, like we're sort of glossing over the fact that like, because you're so resilient and we're just like, yeah, no, I got to mop floors, but I'm going to run 7 businesses. I mean, not really, but like, I'm going to run multiple businesses while I'm mopping the floors. You are so resilient. You are so strong, but that doesn't mean that you're not still deeply hurt inside and shook and wounded. And so as we're rebuilding these parts of our
Mhm.
lives, so many of us aren't ready to be seen again until it's perfect and polished. What would you say to a listener right now who is in this like rewriting phase, the next chapter phase, and it's like all in pencil and there's eraser and scratch marks and everything. And they're like, this is the new me. I haven't lived it and perfected it yet. So I'm just going to hide and be quiet until I'm ready to be out there in the world again.
You're going to be waiting forever.
That's incredible. You're going to be waiting forever.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you've just got to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, most people aren't watching that closely.
Mm-hmm. No, everyone else is too busy worried about what people are thinking about them.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So I've started things and they haven't worked out and I've quietly closed them down, or I've been vocal about it and been like, this thing didn't work out. We tried it. It didn't work out. We're going to try it a different way. And I've done that because I've been building a community, like a supply chain community. And it's taken me a very long time to figure it out. And I've tried different things and I've started things and I've closed it and I've merged it together and I've turned it into something else until it worked, because it's like a puzzle piece. It's kind of like Tetris. You got to figure out, because not everything is meant for you.
Yeah.
And not everything is meant for you in the way that you think that it should be.
Yeah.
So the way that I saw community was this and this and this. It didn't work out that way. And so we've pared it all down and we've merged it into something else. And now it's working. Right. And so now it's sort of like, okay, what's the next test phase?
Oh, thank
but
you for
you
sharing
have
that.
to just get out there and just do it. Like I said, one of my best listened to episodes has the worst audio. Mm-hmm. I put graphics out there that I absolutely should not have. Like if you go on YouTube and you look up Two Babes Talk Supply Chain, you'll be like, really? Like this woman went from that to like that? Because I don't, it was my first time doing a podcast. Like I had people on Skype behind me. Like we were talking to a screen. It was so bad.
I know, but you just have to get out there and live it to learn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, because I feel like we all feel like, especially with the world being in such 2D at our fingertips, and it's all so curated and polished, that like it takes years of Tetris to get it right. I'm still am building this business and am moving pieces and parts and trying things and closing things. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I spent hours on the couch crying every day. Every day. But then I had obligation. I got up and I did the thing. Yeah. I've cried a lot in this journey. I've questioned myself. I've questioned what I'm doing. I've questioned me as a leader. I've questioned, putting myself out in the public. I've questioned, oh my goodness, if something happens, and it looks bad, what's going to happen? I've had other people question me throughout the journey and say really nasty things.
Oh gosh.
And that's all part of it. And it doesn't feel good and it's not great.
Yeah.
But I also put my head down and I forget about the noise.
Yeah. That is the greatest gift you can give yourself.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
So like I don't live in my LinkedIn feed. Everybody's like, did you see my post? I'm like, no, you have to tag me because I live in my notifications. Yeah. I don't want to see necessarily what everybody else is doing.
Totally.
Because I know what we're doing and I know what we're delivering and I know what we can do for our clients and I know what I can do for my team. But it's taken a while to get there. It's taken abundance altars and guided meditations and mini retreats.
You are speaking my language. Oh my God.
This is therapy. Can I just put therapy in there? Because like I've been in therapy since my early 20s. And I took a break for a year and I put myself back.
Yeah. It's the greatest gift that you can give yourself. Like we have doctors for broken bones and cardiologists for hurt hearts. Like if our mind, needs some love, why wouldn't you give it that beautiful resource? It's so funny that you say abundance. I'm literally in the middle of like a 21-day abundance meditation. It's just like,
love it.
Because we just have to keep trying, because on the other side of trying is where you're meant to be. And to your point, which I'm so grateful that you said, is it almost guaranteed won't look like what you thought it was going to look like. But that's the beauty in it. So like, I think writing your own rules and writing your own story to me doesn't mean that you necessarily know the ending. You just know what the next chapter needs to serve.
Mhm.
And so for me, like sometimes life blows itself up and you're like, I have to rewrite the whole story. Or you can be in a moment where you're playing Tetris and you have these things that you're trying in your business and they're not fitting, or you're trying something in your personal life and it's not working. You're trying a new friend group or new hobby, or you're dating and you're just like, and you have to sometimes close that chapter and be like, okay, what have I learned? What does the next one need to say?
Mhm.
And I think saying out loud that life most certainly does not go as planned, but it is the messy middle that's the best part in the ride. And as soon as you can learn to embrace that gap of like, I don't really know where I'm going, but I know where I'm trying to go, and embracing those closed doors and failures, that's where you learn to become happy.
Yeah, and also I think, stopping, like, not put so much pressure on us for to know that ending, but
Hmm.
to also understand that these are chapters,
Yeah. Yeah.
and clarity will come at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what that looked like for me until, a couple of weeks ago. And, it's about, like, what do you want your life to look like? And you are so many different things
Yeah.
that, like, if you spend 10 years on one thing and building up a brand, and it, whatever that looks like, and then you decide to take an exit
Hmm.
and you're 55,
Hmm.
what are you going to do after that? My cousin went and built a flower business. She loves flowers. She used to be a
That's
teacher.
very, very cool.
You know, maybe
Yeah.
I want to be a food tester at Costco,
Right. Love that.
and that's fine.
Yes.
And if you want to do that for 3 months to try to figure out what your next chapter looks like, that's okay too. Like, who is
Hmm.
telling you that you cannot?
This moment we're in right now with Sarah is what I like to call the now what. The moment after the old story ends and before the new one starts. The moment most women get stuck in for the longest. I want to tell you about something for a second. When I was in my own now what moment, and don't get me wrong, they happened more than once, but when I was in my major now what moment, I would have done anything for an actual step by step way forward. I love mindset content. I love reflection, but what I really needed in that moment was actual movement. So I built it. It's called Now What, and it's a 12-week program for women in the middle of life not going as planned. Maybe it's divorce or burnout or identity shifts, health stuff, or just the unexpected thing. It walks you through the 5 steps. You want to first release the past so you stop replaying it. You want to reclaim yourself from fear so you actually can start moving forward. You want to redefine what you want, not what looks good on paper, but what actually feels good. And then you want to rewrite and start writing your next chapter. This is the momentum you will actually feel. And the last step that is so important is learning how to rebound, because through this, you're going to have setbacks, and moving forward, you're going to have setbacks. But learning how to rebound fast and keep moving forward and writing those next chapters is so critical. And it's the confidence that you need to live the happy life that you so deserve. So if this gap is where you are right now, this is what I built just for you. Not to mention, I have a 30-day feel better sprint, because honestly, when you are lying on the kitchen floor or the couch crying because life does not look like how you thought it would, you just want to feel better. So I've intentionally built that in to focus on those first 30 days to make sure that you just start feeling better fast, because that's what leads to movement. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, or something that you need, or something that a friend desperately needs, check out the link in the show notes to sign up and be the first person to know about it as soon as it launches. I am in the midst of writing a new chapter in my personal life. And there's this moment that I have become so familiar with, whether it be business or personal or anything on the table, is the gap of
Mhm.
knowing that where you were no longer serves you and where you're going isn't super defined yet. And there's this gap in the middle. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, I experienced that when I was working the 2 part-time jobs and
Yeah.
working on the content. Like,
Yeah.
what did I know about
Right.
media and digital marketing? I knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Like, I
Yeah.
had no idea where this could go. No
Mm-hmm.
idea. But yet, every day I would write emails and I would get on Zoom calls and I would write out scripts, literally write with pen and paper my
Yeah.
scripts.
Yeah.
And I would have conversations and I would ask the questions and I would see what people needed and what they were looking for and what they wanted. And then I would be like, well, do I really want to do that? I'll actually give you one example. So, I got asked a lot, and I still do, to do keynotes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I had to do it. I never did
Mhm.
it. I never said yes. And I have a terrible fear of public speaking.
You mentioned
And
that.
I've
Yeah.
been
I was
working
just
on it.
thinking, you poor thing. Yeah.
I've been working on it. I get panic attacks on stage. I've learned how
Mm,
to manage them. They go through me. It's has not been an easy journey for that.
mm,
But keynotes. And at one point I was like, well, wait a second. Am I saying no because I'm scared and don't want to do it? Or
yeah.
am I saying no because the traditional way of doing a keynote does not resonate with me? Because the traditional way of doing a keynote is with a PowerPoint presentation and I'm up on
Mhm.
a stage by myself.
Mhm.
Well, now that we know my superpower, we know that that's not my jam.
Mhm.
So it took me a little bit of time to figure out if I was saying no out of fear or no because it wasn't resonating with me. And I decided that I was saying no because it wasn't resonating with me. And so when I finally said yes to one, and I think this was, I don't even remember, I think it was 2022, I did it my way, which was a fireside chat where we
Mhm.
got to understand two people's journeys, mine and somebody else's. And then it was interactive with the audience.
Mm.
So we asked them questions, they got to know each other. And the feedback that we got that it was one of the best keynotes that they've witnessed because what happened was they left the room knowing some people for the rest of the conference,
Yeah.
right?
And that's your superpower.
Yeah. And so I share that example because I didn't know where this could go. And at one point in time, I was like, why am I saying no? And should I be saying no?
Mhm.
And in that moment of not really knowing and taking some time to figure that out while still saying no,
Mhm. Yeah.
then I could really figure out what that could potentially look like. And I still don't know what it looks like. Like I haven't tried that keynote in an auditorium where people are sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
But I know that I could do it.
Yeah. Of
And I
course you
know
do.
that it would make the same kind of impact.
Yeah.
Right?
That I just want to, for everyone listening, to play that back again, to slow up and play that back. Am I saying no because I'm afraid? Or am I saying no because this isn't authentic to me? And there's another version of it that could be a yes. And I think the same goes for, am I saying yes because I should say yes? Or am I saying yes because this gives me energy and this feels authentic to me? Like we get so caught up in decision making, myself, because we think the only way to keep ourselves safe is to make the
Mhm.
right decision. But what incredible barometer to be like, okay, well, let's check in. Is it a no because it's scary, or is it a no because it doesn't serve me?
Yeah. And I think where you are right now with that gap,
Mm,
reaching out, talking to people within
yeah.
whatever industry that want to be
Yeah.
in and what you want to do, and just sort
Yeah.
of like asking questions and seeing where it goes, that is where you find the opportunity. And
Yeah.
then it's like one foot in front of the other. So you get that opportunity. And then that opportunity opens a door that you never even thought was a door.
Yeah.
And then you go over here and it happens again. And so it's just putting yourself out there and asking questions and being curious and being like, wait a second, that could be an opportunity for me. So like seeing the signs, right?
Yeah.
And that's all
Yes.
I did every day. Just got up, did something towards it.
But like that is so incredibly brave, because so many people would rather sit in the
Hmm.
quiet, figure it out themselves, and show up as a baked whatever the next version is.
Hmm.
Where to your point, you'll never get anywhere if you don't actually just try. And I love the idea of be in community and put yourself out there in this kind of raw version and just notice and look at the signs and see where life takes you. And you never, like, you're going to end up in the place that you were meant to be in, but you have to actually put yourself out there and live in order to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons why I started charging the prices that I charge was because I had a client that came on the show, and I think I was charging minimal at the time.
I get it.
And he was like, I would pay $1,000 for this overnight, change my prices.
So much.
1,000 bucks.
I love it so much. We all underprice. And I love, and sometimes we just need to listen to somebody else. It's like, no, ding dong, you're worth so much more than this. And I know we
But
should be getting there on our own, but like we are allowed to look into community.
Yeah. Well, and that
Yeah.
was just an example of
Yeah.
putting myself out there, having this person on the show, and then
Mhm.
making a comment like that. And that's the
Mhm.
sign, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes we gloss over that. Like I could have so easily glossed over it and been
Mhm.
like, really? Oh my goodness. There's no way I could ever do that.
Right? No way anyone would ever do it. And then you're like, you know what? Again, fuck it. I'm gonna try
We're going to
it.
try
We're gonna
it.
try it. This is, I think, no matter if this is in your professional life or in your personal life, like just get out there and start living and embrace the fact that there are going to be these, moments where it's not going to feel normal. But you can check in with yourself and say, why am I here? What am I doing? You have so much more agency than we think we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And your impact doesn't necessarily need to be in your for-profit company.
Ooh.
You can decide impact later.
Mm-hmm.
So I started Let's Talk Supply Chain. And when I did that, I actually started a Woman in Supply Chain series,
Cool.
which actually kicked off advocacy work for me, which
Mhm.
I didn't realize at the time.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I was like, I want to do more in advocacy around inclusion than just gender, because I have a very blended family as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, bonus children, but like I've got South Korean nieces and nephews.
Awesome.
And, my husband's family is from Trinidad. And I was like, I want to do more. What does that look like? And I
Yeah.
decided to do like a red table talk for podcasts. And that's where the blended podcast came about. And then we turned it into a nonprofit. But there's stages of it, right? And I needed to take time to figure out what it was that I wanted to spend my extracurricular time building and doing. And nonprofits are not easy. Volunteer nonprofits are 10 times harder. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been a journey, and man, have I learned a lot.
Yes.
But
Oh my
I've
gosh.
gone from the journey of gender inclusion to inclusion in the workplace or inclusion in general, and helping to see more inclusion on industry stages, which I'm very passionate about
I
because
love this.
it's what I do. So again, it sort of comes all full circle. And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come all full circle, it's fine. It just means that something's not right.
Yeah.
And you just need
Right.
to drop it or change it or whatever that looks like.
Right. And if you don't know the answer yet, you can sit with it until all of a sudden you'll know. It will become quietly very clear. Don't
Yeah.
you
Or
think?
keep going and
Mm-hmm.
it'll come clear later.
Yeah, totally. Either the door will literally close, which is so often because I'm like, I'm just going to keep marching on. And then the door closes. I'm like, right. Okay. Okay. Yep. Nope. Not
Yep.
that one. Like slammed in my
Sidestep,
face a little.
go around
Yeah.
it, move on.
I love it. Right. Okay. Go find another door. Got it. Got it. But I think, when I think about the Sarah who was 16, sitting at the dinner table, this is what I should do. This is my dream, going into the family business, crushing it for 20 years. And then I think about the Sarah who is building her own keynotes, focusing on inclusion, having all of these kind of floating parts and pieces that kind of stemmed from supply chain, but are so much bigger
Mhm.
than that. There's sort of this cost factor that I like to talk about where it's like there's a cost of letting go of your old life to live your new life. And it gets such a bad rap because it is kind of messy and it's really hard to unlearn all those old things that come creeping in. But like, what
Mhm.
are some of the costs that you would say you could identify of like living this new life with and having to shed the old life?
Oh, there's a lot of cost.
You're
There's a
like,
lot of
chapter one.
cost. I have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I've changed a lot. And I would hope that other people would say for the better. I think that I have changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of growth in communication and leadership, and figuring out what's important. And people matter,
Yeah.
right? Like your team matters, your people matter. One of the things that I'm super proud of is the fact that we have a team of freelancers and they're 98% women owned businesses.
Awesome.
And so I
Awesome.
pay for additional training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the client, but like I pay for additional training. I pay for mid-year parties and, virtual holiday parties and different things like that because that's what's important to me. I watched how a business was grown.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized what I wanted to do, what I wanted to take from that, and what I didn't want to take from that, and what I wanted to do differently.
Yeah.
But then also in my journey, I realized how hard it was to grow that business and what my family must have gone through in a variety of different ways for different things.
Yeah.
And how I struggle with that right now because of my age and having to figure out the technology that's coming at us every single
Yeah.
day, right? Which can
Same.
be super overwhelming and things like that. And so like those are just a couple of things that I think about when I think about, and I don't know if I answered your question. You might have to repeat it so that I can keep going, but
No, you're doing absolutely great. It's the idea of like, what was the cost of living this new
oh
life?
yeah,
And you're
the
absolutely
cost.
right. Like, you're different. You've
Mhm.
grown, you've changed, you've reprioritized. But also, what I love is that one of the things that you mentioned was I looked back at what I've seen and what I've experienced. I've decided what is for me and I want to take with me, and what is
Mhm.
not for me and what I want to leave in the past. And
Yeah.
I that is
Well, and
really like incredible.
I think the other cost, because the light bulb just went off. I think the other
Yeah.
cost is also understanding who should be on your team and who shouldn't.
Mm.
And there's seasons for those people.
Hmm.
If I'm going like this and they want to stay here, there is
Hmm.
absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you have to have the awareness and let it go.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
have to be able to nip it in the bud earlier than maybe I did a few times. Let's just say that. But like
I'm with you.
everything's changed. Family has changed, circle has changed, friends
Yes.
have changed. And it's a really hard road to be an entrepreneur. It
Yeah.
is extremely lonely
Hmm.
because most people really don't want to hear what you have to talk about when you're
Right.
complaining about your business
Yeah.
because they don't understand
Right.
and they don't want to understand. It's not like they don't want to listen, but most people just don't get it,
They just
right?
don't get
The
it. Right. Totally.
pressures of payroll,
Hmm.
the pressures of having to sell a certain amount so that you can pay for everything on a monthly basis.
Right.
Like the pressure is immense. And so I think as you grow, and especially as an entrepreneur, there's going to be a lot of really, really hard moments.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that also applies to our personal life. Like, think
Yeah.
about when you were saying that, like, the family life is different, the friends life is different, the circle is different. Like, when you grow into new chapters, new phases, new spaces, whether it's going from working in a family business to being an entrepreneur, or whether it's going from, being married to not being married, or,
Mhm.
gosh, if you experience loss or injury or health, like, your circle is going to change and that's okay. And it actually feels better once it finally does. But I wholeheartedly agree with you that it is a painful process to shed the past.
Mhm.
And you have these moments where you're like, I don't feel like myself, but that's because you're in between your old self and your new self. And if you can sit in that and sit in the discomfort and keep moving forward, like, it is so beautiful on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I would call it somewhat peace, but
Yeah.
there's a journey to peace
Hmm.
because
Agreed.
you can let go in the world of
Hmm.
somebody,
Yeah.
but in your mind it takes a lot longer to let go of that and let
Yes.
go of all of the emotional attachments to how you could have done things differently. Or maybe if I said this differently, or maybe if I invited them more, or maybe if I did this and that and blah, blah, blah. And the rumination, I talk about that in the book too. The
Yes.
rumination is probably the most difficult thing that anybody on this planet can get through.
Yeah. What is your advice for that when you're just taking many a lapse in the brain?
Man, I don't know if I am the right person to answer that because I still struggle with it.
I think everyone does. So I think honesty is the best policy here.
Yeah, there is an audiobook that I'm listening to
Oh,
that is helping, and I
okay.
would have to look it up to find the title of it. But
We
one
will
of
link
the exercises that she talks about is saying to yourself, "I love and approve of myself 500 times a day." I mean,
it.
500
Ooh.
is a bit exaggeration, but but if you focus on something like that, then your mind's not wandering and you're not ruminating. So that is the one thing that I think has really been helping me lately with, nervous system and, moving on from rumination.
Yes. I love that so much. It's like, this is, I am so weird. This is the silliest analogy. I have never figure skated a day in my life, but I was so curious how they can spin so fast and not
Uh-huh.
like puke. And so they had mentioned that they pick like a focal
They
point.
pick a focal point.
So,
Yes.
like when your brain is spinning out so fast, if you pick a mantra or a focal point, and I love that you have an affirmation or you have a mantra that you stick to. Like my thing is that every single morning I say to myself, how do I want to feel today? And
Love that.
I try and put it in the context of the things that I have on my plate. And so when I start getting nervous or anxious or spin out or question myself, I'm like, nope, you want to feel this today. How can you bring that to light? Because you're right. Otherwise, we just will take, and it is a female superpower to ruminate. I don't know if men do this as much as we do, but good Lord, I can beat something to a pulp in my head and I will not let it go, but it serves nothing. Either it's in the past and it doesn't exist anymore, or it's in the future and it doesn't exist yet. So it literally doesn't exist. And you're missing all the moments right at your feet, but we all
Yeah.
do it. We all do it.
So true.
But
It just gave me flashbacks.
I'm sorry. I hope you don't leave this with PTSD. But I do think that there is this beautiful cost of living a new life or a new chapter where you had to shed some things in the old. And I'm so glad that you brought to light that even though you're living this new version or this new chapter or this new part of your business, that doesn't mean that the old things still don't creep in, and that you have to have the discipline to be able to be like, nope, we've closed this chapter. Like, thank you, but goodbye, kind of thing.
Or
Because,
take a couple of hours and go cry it out
oh, yes.
and come back and, get on.
I love that your cry spot is the couch. Mine was the kitchen floor. Everyone's got a cry spot. Maybe it's a long drive where you're just like, maybe you got to pull over. But
That has
please,
happened. That has
yes,
happened. The floor, the couch, the car. Holy moly. And sometimes it just creeps up on you, man.
It really does. So for anyone listening who is trying to hold it all together and not feel whatever the anger, sadness, anything that makes those eyes burn, just let it out. Just let it out. It's not yours to carry. Sarah, I love all that you have built. I love the concepts that you have wrapped into your book. I want to wrap us up with some little quick rapid fire questioning if you're up for it. Okay. In one sentence, what's your now what moment?
Now what moment? Probably when I think about the future of my business, the future of content.
I love that. I love that. The future of content is the now what. If a woman is listening and she's in her car right now and she's in the middle of her reinvention, what is the one thing you want her to do before she goes to bed tonight?
Figure out what you like to do, what you don't like to do, and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if you don't know, go and try something that'll show you that the next day.
I love that. I love that. I'm trying to think of like what would be an example of what do I like to do? What do I not like to do? I certainly know what I don't like to do, the dishes. But you're like, what are you good at? What are you not good at? I think that's incredible. I love this. And most importantly, Sarah, if people want to dive into your content, if they're so like, if your book sounds incredible, one, I would love for you to plug it and for us to hear more about it. But if they want to hear more about inclusion, or if they are also a supply chain guru and want to be involved in your content, where can we find all of these great things?
So many places. Do I have a couple of minutes?
You have as much time as you want. As much time as you want.
If you go to letstalksupplychain.com, we actually just came out with an AI interactive podcast experience that we partnered with Google Gemini. So if you're in supply chain, you can interact with our episodes. You can ask the episode a question, all that kind of stuff. So on LinkedIn, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey and Let's Talk Supply Chain. On Instagram, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, Let's Talk Supply Chain. The book, I promise, if you go to Amazon and you type in I Buried Her in a French Press, which is the title of the book, it will be the only thing that comes up. So, and we did an audiobook version. So it's in paperback, hard copy, and audiobook. And then for Blended, so if you go to blendedpledge.org, we give away grants to cover travel expenses so that we can see more inclusive voices on industry stages. Because the number one barrier to seeing that is travel. And we want to try to eliminate that, but also we want to see more diversity of thought on industry stages. So you can volunteer, you can donate, and you can apply if you've got a speaking engagement. And that's also where you'll find the Blended podcast, where we talk about inclusion in the workplace. And I bring 5 different people from different walks of life together to talk about the very, very hard topics. So I really appreciate you for allowing me to share all of that. And I hope we see some of your audience in those spaces.
I really hope so too, because I just want to pause and really truly tell you how grateful I am for you going under the hood and being so vulnerable with me today, because you are such an accomplished woman. You have created such incredible things. You have built things that are so important. You are like absolutely crushing it. And that deserves to be celebrated. And I always want to tell that part of women's stories, but there are so many of us who are in the build and in the messy middle. And for you to share that with us gives so much hope and so much inspiration to the people who are trying the things and feel like they're, either banging their head against the wall or it's just about to unlock. And that feeling where you're like, I know I'm so close, but I'm not there yet. And you've given everyone such permission to keep going or to turn the page or to take a look inside and be like, do I even like this? Is this for me? Or what's my version of this? I'm going to think about that keynote example truly probably for the rest of my life, because you just gave everyone the permission to be like, yes, and yes, I can do this for you. But we're going to do it my way. Yeah. I think that permission women so desperately need in their professional life, in their personal life, and in their own head.
Yeah. And thank you so much. You're going to make me cry.
Oh, wow. I know, again, no PTSD from this episode, but it's been an incredible story, like truly to go from, I think I'm supposed to go down this path because this is what we talked to at the dining room table, and I'm going to attach my heart to it, to the doors closing, to mopping floors, to building a platform that takes many minutes to be able to explain because it's so impactful and so expansive, which I think, hell yes. Take all the minutes you need to talk about the great things that you're doing in life. Every woman, we should take up the space. You deserve it. You've earned it. And you didn't even have to earn it. You deserve it no matter what. So Sarah, thank you again so much for sharing everything. I know that we have left our audience inspired. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for creating the space and then also for sharing it with me today. I hope that we've impacted at least one person. So
I know without a doubt, we most certainly have. What an episode. If you've ever felt invisible in your own reinvention, and if you've ever been quietly rebuilding while everyone around thinks that you're actually totally fine, here's this one more time. Your story matters before it's wrapped in a bow. Not after. It matters before it's tied up nice and neat. You don't have to wait until you've got it all figured out to start telling it. You don't have to wait until you feel it to start being it. You don't have to wait until you feel worthy to remember that you already are. And Sarah does such a wonderful job of reminding us that you just have to start living it and trying it to figure out what's right for you. And that if you don't start, you'll never get anywhere. And if every time you imagine moving forward, the word should is in the sentence, let me stop you right there and please pause. That word is such a red flag to me because it is almost always tied to someone else's rules. The opposite of should is cannot. I can no longer live by someone else's rules. And on the other side of cannot is now what? And that is where your power lies. If you want a step-by-step forward that actually is movement through this now what phase, let me meet you where you are. It's 12 weeks, it's 5 steps, and it is very much focused on actually feeling better and waking you back up to what is in your power and what is in your control. You get to be the author of your own life. You get to write your own rules. And if you don't know how to do that yet, let the Now What program help you. And if this episode hit something in you, send it to a woman who needs it today. It doesn't have to be 5. It doesn't have to be your whole group chat. It just is the one woman who you know is silently in this dark gap before she knows what's next. This is how stories travel. This is how shoulders drop. This is the permission to reinvent. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.